Hello, LPES friends. Happy Friday. Happy Friday feeling. Today, we are starting off a little bit differently than we normally do. So, I actually forgot to record Friday feeling while I was at work, while I was at LPES. So instead, we're recording this in my neighborhood, and I'm bringing you to one of my favorite peaceful spots so that we can have our Friday feelings start off right together. It's Thursday night as I'm recording this, and the sun is just setting. It's really nice and lovely outside. It's a beautiful day. So I thought I would bring you all on this walk with me, a little bit different than what we're used to. Sorry if it's a little bit bumpy. And I wanted to talk to you all about something that we have been celebrating this month, and you may have heard us talking about it a few times. You're going to hear us talk about it a lot more later today at our Panther Pride meeting, and that is Autism Acceptance Month. I'm going to get back to that topic in a moment, but before I get there, I wanted to give you a little heads up that our normal routine is a little thrown off today too, because since I forgot to record this at work, I don't have my cards on me, and I don't have the wheel here either. So we're taking a pause on our normal things for today, and we're just going to roll with it. Sometimes that happens in our life, doesn't it? Where we expect one thing to happen, we expect things to go a certain way, and then suddenly it just doesn't go exactly as we planned or exactly as we anticipated. And when those things happen, they can sometimes stress us out. Like I could be stressed or sad right now about not having our usual materials here. Or we can kind of embrace it and lean into it and think, you know what, this isn't what I had planned, but there can be beautiful things in the unplanned, like the view behind me. So we have the sun setting, and it's over the water, and it's nice and peaceful and quiet. It seemed like a perfect way to end my Thursday, and hopefully a good way to start your Friday. So I thought we would do things here, be a little different, have a little different environment, very different scenery than my office, and start our Friday feeling together in a nice, peaceful place. Sometimes in our life, we need to seek out those peaceful spots, those spots that make us feel good, whether it's your backyard, whether it's your room, whether it's being by a certain family member's house or a friend's house, or even like the playground at school, whatever it might be, a place that you feel good and safe and calm. And the nice thing is, and we've kind of talked about this before, those beautiful calm spots can be with us at any time. We can access them in our mind when we're feeling stressed or worried. We can close our eyes and picture what it's like to be in a peaceful spot. When I'm stressed or upset or sad or frustrated, I can close my eyes and picture what it's like to be here. Maybe for you, it's someplace else. Maybe for you, it's a different place that you've been to before. It doesn't have to be the same. That's the beautiful thing about being human. We all have different lovely spots that make us feel good. So, as we're talking about things that help us to stay calm, and then we are going to get back to Autism Acceptance Month, I promise. As we're talking about things that help us to stay calm, I want to share a story with all of you. Let me jump down over here. Hold on. Okay. Let's see. All right. The lighting might not be as good, but you have a nice background. Okay. I want to share a story with all of you. Earlier this week, sometimes I hope at school, for the most part, I hope that when I'm there, I seem happy and good and excited, because I am always happy and good and excited to see all of you. But there are definitely times when even us grown-ups, even the happiest grown-ups, feel stressed or sad or upset about something, or wishing that just things were different in the world, that things were maybe better. And I had been feeling that way, and I had to do some things to help myself feel a little bit better. And I want to share that with you because it's really honest, and it's the truth that all of us aren't great 100% of the time. Nobody's great 100% of the time. Nobody's happy 100% of the time. And that's okay. It's okay to be that way. And when that happens to us, we still need to access the things that help us to cope, those coping skills that we've been talking about all year, the things that help us to stay calm, the things that help us to, even if we can't make our sadness or frustration or anger, whatever it is we're feeling, go away, we can do something to help us get through that moment until, like the clouds behind me, like the sky behind me, until it changes again. Because remember, our feelings are like the weather. They're always changing. They're never going to stay the same forever and ever and ever. So sometimes we just need to do something to help us get through whatever feeling we're in that moment, in that day, in that week, until we get to a different one. So I want to share with you the things that I did. I know for myself, being outside helps when I'm feeling stressed. I know for myself, singing, making music, listening to certain kinds of music can help to kind of snap me out of a funk a little bit. I know for myself that talking with friends or hanging out with people I enjoy, seeing students, being out in the playground with you guys can sometimes help me snap out of a funk if I'm feeling a little not great, a little down in the dumps maybe. I'm trying to think what else. I'm sure you guys have answers. Oh, moving my body, walking, running, doing some kind of exercise. So if you play a sport, if you like bike riding, if you like taking walks with your family, all great things to help us cope and get through those uncomfortable moments. Okay, so just some words, some things that I've been thinking about this week that I wanted to share with all of you, that hopefully as we're working towards the end of the school year, we have about 2 months left, we can use some of those coping skills to get through the moments that aren't pleasant, to get through those times that are a little uncomfortable or rough or sad, because it happens to everyone. So, all right, enough with our feelings talk. I want to talk to you about Autism Acceptance Month. In the past, we have called it Autism Awareness Month. We are making changes. The world is making changes to start calling it Autism Acceptance Month, because being aware of something just means that we know it's there. Accepting something has this vision of like opening our arms like for a hug, or bringing someone in, or inviting someone to play with you. Acceptance is inclusion, right? Acceptance means that we belong, all of us belong. So it's a little bit better. It's a little bit of a nicer term than awareness, which is just knowing something is there or knowing someone is there and not really doing anything about it. So Autism Acceptance Month is this month. It is April. It is why you are probably wearing blue today. No worries if you forgot. But at our Panther Pride meeting today, we're going to talk a lot more about Autism Acceptance Month. But I did want to mention something. So first thing is, I want to encourage you all, if you haven't already, to go down that tiny little hallway in by the kindergarten hallway, if you know where I'm talking about, over there, because there's a beautiful bulletin board outside of Mrs. Leck's classroom. It is all about Autism Acceptance Month. It is so beautiful. There's so many different parts to it. It's really colorful. It's giant. So if you haven't done so already, go down there, check it out, because I think it's a really nice way to kind of celebrate Autism Acceptance Month. So, get your teacher's permission first. Don't just go down there on your own accord, but hopefully you can go down and see that, because it is a really cool thing. Teachers, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend getting down to that little kindergarten hallway, that little extra bit right outside of Mrs. Leck's room. So nice work. And then I wanted to tell you that today we're going to do a little bit of a throwback, a little fallback Friday, because I'm actually going to pass it back to a past Mrs. Heffler, who's going to be reading a story for you all. And it is all about autism and accepting people with differences and accepting ourselves with differences too. So like I said, we'll be talking more about it all later. But for right now, take it away, past Mrs. Heffler. So today I found a new book that I thought I'd share with you. And I'm going to present this online because I had to buy a Kindle edition of it. So let's see if this will work. I think it will. It is called All My Stripes, a story for children with autism, written by Shana Rudolph and Danielle Royer. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment. It does say it's a story for children with autism, but I read through this and I think it's a great book for people who do have autism and people who don't, to kind of get a better understanding of what it's like for someone who might be autistic. So All My Stripes, and it's about this little cute zebra character. I'm going to skip past a little bit, and here we go. Zane ran home as fast as he could. "Nobody gets me, Mama." Mama hugged Zane. He began to tell her about his bad day. "This morning in art class, the teacher started a hoof painting project. I didn't want to get paint on my hooves, so the teacher gave me a paintbrush. All the other zebras noticed and were making fun of me because they didn't understand why I wouldn't use my hooves." Mama said, "I bet that made you feel different from the rest of the group." Zane replied, "It did, but paint is just too weird to touch." Sometimes people with autism, this is Mrs. Heffler speaking, not the book, sometimes people with autism have trouble touching things that other people don't. They might not want to touch paint or get their hands dirty like that, or touching other things or certain kinds of food or textures might bother them or upset them. Not everybody who has autism, but some. During math class, the fire alarm blared loudly. While the children in my class were getting in line quietly, I hid under the desk, screaming and covering my ears. The class left without me, and I was scared until the firefighters found me. When the class came back from lunch, everyone was putting their lunch boxes in their cubbies. Some classmates were talking about a video game I play all the time, but I didn't know how to start talking to them. I started talking about all the things I knew about the game, but since I was staring at the floor, nobody knew I was talking to them. When the other kids walked away, I started talking louder. I really wanted them to hear me, but everybody was getting ready for science class. Pause for a moment. So sometimes people with autism, they might not look at you when they talk. They might be looking someplace else. And again, when we talk about having autism, or when we talk about ways that we might be different or our brains might work differently, it doesn't mean that everybody who has autism does this, but some people who have autism do. It also means that if you have trouble looking at someone when you're talking to them, it doesn't necessarily mean you have autism. That makes sense. We sat down for science and we're learning about the planets. Our teacher gave us each a planet to draw, but I wanted to create my own. When it came time to present, I felt different from the rest of the class again. My teacher loved my planet and said, "Whatever floats your boat." I spent the rest of the afternoon looking for a boat in the classroom. Zane was crying. "How come all anyone sees is my autism stripe?" Mama carried Zane over to the mirror. "When I look at you, I see many different stripes. If one of them were missing, you wouldn't be the same." Pause again for a moment, boys and girls. So you're going to notice that in the illustration, he has this like square kind of stripe that's red on his forehead. And they're calling it his autism stripe. People with autism don't have a stripe that makes them look different. And his mom is going to talk in a moment about all the things in him that are different that you wouldn't be able to see on the outside of someone's body, like someone being kind or their good heart or things that make them unique. This book is choosing to make it seem like it's actual stripes, actual things you could see, but you can always see if someone has autism from the outside. You can always see if someone thinks a little differently than you do or acts a little differently than you do. So I didn't want you to get too confused, even though the book is talking about that. Okay, back to the story. His mama said, "I see your pilot stripe. When we get lost in the city, you always remember the way home." Your caring stripe makes you act kindly towards others. When your classmates think it's funny to bully other kids, you come to the rescue. Your honesty stripe lets me always trust your word. When other parents have to worry that their kids aren't telling the truth,
I know you always are. My favorite stripe is your curiosity stripe. When all the other kids are falling asleep in class, you always want to know more. I love when you come home and tell me everything you learned. Sometimes you ask me questions and I don't even know the answers. Mama pointed out the rest of Zane's amazing stripes. The more stripes she explained, the better Zane began to feel about himself. By the time she was finished, Zane loved himself again. Zane ran outside, feeling the warmth of the sun. Finally, he felt proud of all his stripes. He said, "There's more to me than just my autism stripe. It's just part of me. The other parts make me whole, make the whole me. I love each stripe because without them, I wouldn't be me." And that, my friends, is the end of our story, All My Stripes. So just to go back and review, people with autism, they might act a little differently than you might act. They might not like certain textures like touching paint or sand. They might get scared of loud noises. Sometimes their senses are a little bit more heightened. They're a little bit stronger than ours, or yours. If a sound is happening, it might seem like that's all they can hear and be really overwhelming to them. Again, it's not everyone with autism. And again, if sounds are really loud for you, it doesn't mean that you have autism necessarily. It just means that sometimes sounds are loud. And I love how his mama at the end of the book starts to talk about all the things about him that are different, all the things that make him, Zane, who he is. And each and every one of you have that too. Each and every one of you as parts of yourself has different stripes that make you different from other kids. Whether it's an autism stripe or not, there are different things about each and every one of us. So this is Autism Awareness Month. We are celebrating those who have autism and making ourselves a little bit more aware and trying to understand our friends who might have differences than us. So I hope that this book was a little helpful to give you some insight. My older students, I know we've talked about this in past years, especially during April for Autism Awareness Month. But for my kindergartners and my first graders, I hope that this book is a good introduction to understanding how other kids might act, other people might act, or maybe you might act.
Okay, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that story. I look so forward to seeing you all at Panther Pride later, where we can talk about this topic a little bit more. And until then, I hope that you're all able to take away some calmness from today's Friday feeling, hopefully a little inspiration for those coping skills that we can access at any time, whether it's picturing happy, calm places, whether it's getting outside in nature, especially now that the weather is getting warmer, whether it's talking with friends or listening to music, whatever it might be for you that helps you cope with those emotions. Okay, boys and girls, as always, I'm going to sign off now, so please, LPES, stay kind. I'll see you all next week.